Alright, so the next step in assembling all this stuff was making the floor flat. And so in this bus, the floor has this corrugated kind of flooring that is the standard thing in the bus, and we needed something pretty flat to mount the pumps and the water heater and all that kind of stuff too. And so what we did was we just took some plywood and then we glued on the same kind of rubber thick, it's an eighth of an inch thick rubber stuff, and that'll work to kind of deaden the vibrations of the pump and things like that, and it'll also give us a flat area to mount to. So we've gone ahead and made these up, and now we'll work on mounting the pump and maybe looking at how to mount the water heater. Alright, so this is the board that we're going to mount our pump to. And so we have done quite a bit of research into what the different options are for RV pumps, water pumps, things like that. And what most RVs come with and use is a pump similar to this. So this is a typical RV water pump. This one happens to be a flow jet, but there are a few manufacturers that make these. They are DC, they run on 12 volts. They typically get between 30 and 50 psi and usually flow between 2 to 5 gallons per minute. And so what we discovered is these aren't really intended to be used on a full-time basis. So these are intended to be used when you're not at the RV park, you're not using city water. This is to augment that system. And so with our bus, we wanted to build kind of an off-grid first system. And so the water pump, we thought about maybe getting 2 of them and running them in parallel, and you could maybe double the output that way. You could also have some redundancy there. So we thought about things like that. And when I was younger, I actually lived on an ostrich ranch. Interesting fact. So I lived on an ostrich ranch and we had well water. And with that well water, when we first moved in, the pressure you can imagine from a well that was just gravity fed from a tank was, it was dismal. You couldn't even take a shower. It would just kind of trickle out of the shower. And so what we did was we did a bunch of research back then, my dad and I, and we put in an assisting pump, a pressure pump. And that changed everything. Like all of a sudden, like we had normal water, it would flow out and it was nice and it would come out just, like you'd expect. And so we thought, seeing how many times these are being replaced, like we follow a lot of RV groups, we follow a lot of RV people that travel, and these seem to be something that goes out. It's not uncommon for these to fail, is what we've actually discovered. And so during the time when I lived out at the ranch, we had that same well pump for, I want to say 4 years. And other than it would sometimes get pressure logged, which means there was a tank on it and we would have to put pressure in the tank, we didn't ever mess with the motor or none of it. Like it just always worked. And so that's a pretty stark contrast to these guys. And so we decided, is there a chance that we could put one of that style of pump into an RV? Is that ridiculous or is that crazy? And so we started looking at the stats, and the pressure stats are similar. So on the pressure side of it, the well pumps put between 30 and I think 60 psi of water pressure in, and that's about typical for a house. But instead of flowing 3 to 5 gallons per minute, they typically flow 18 to 20 gallons per minute. So quite a bit more throughput. And what that means is if someone's in taking a shower, someone else can be, flushing the toilet or using the sink or washing clothes or things like that. And even though we're boondocking first and we will try to conserve water, when we go to use the water, we want there to be a reasonable amount of pressure. And so what we've kind of decided to go with is a jet pump. So you can see the size difference here. It's considerably bigger. These do draw quite a bit of power from the AC side. So we have plenty of power with our battery and stuff. So we weren't terribly concerned about that. But we were concerned about maybe putting too much pressure on our pumps, on our pipes, and we were relieved to find out that these guys limit themselves to about 60 psi, which is what a semi-normal household plumbing system would put out, like the plumbing in your house. And so we are building our plumbing more like a residential plumbing than like an RV plumbing system, and so that should be about perfect. And so this is the pump we're going with. We looked through quite a few of them, and of course there's compromises on everything, but this one in particular I believe puts out, I'll look up the specs for sure and we'll put them on the screen, but I think it's 900 gallons per hour, so these are rated in hours instead of minutes like these, and I think the cutoff is between 40 and 60 psi, but I think that's adjustable in this head unit. You can take it apart and there's little screws that you can adjust that. So we'll be mounting this onto this board. This is the pump we're going to use, and those are the reasons we're going with this much larger well pump. Okay. Yeah, that's tight. Okay. Whoops. So let's go this way. So this one we don't need a gasket on because it's sealed with an O-ring, but we don't need the Teflon tape. Okay, so now this needs to be straight. Nope. Need my other ones. All right.
Right there?
Mm-hmm. Okay. About here. Does that look like it's in line? Yeah. Alright, so next we're working on installing our water heater. And so we've opted for a tankless LP water heater. This is a Girard GSWH2. It's their second generation, or third generation, I guess, of water heater. And we've seen really great reviews on this heater. And so this is what we've chosen for hot water. We've got plenty of electricity, but heating water just takes a lot of energy, and so we opted to go with a propane water heater. So this is where we're thinking of mounting it, and so this presents a few challenges because these are meant to be installed like a normal RV water heater. And so we've got a few challenges. One is mounting it in here because the mounting holes are kind of all on the sides. And so we can secure 2 of the sides just fine. And so we're thinking about adding another bracket up here at the top possibly, and screwing it to our wall just to kind of keep it a little more secure. This unit does come with a remote control, and so you can set the desired hot water temperature by adjusting this little LCD. And so we'll be mounting this up in the bathroom near the shower. And so, you know, if one of us likes hotter showers than the other, this is an adjustable thing. And so, but this is it. The other challenge is the exhaust. And so the exhaust comes out the front, which normally would stick out the side of an RV. And so what we're gonna do is make it curve and try to go down through the floor. And so it'll vent down through the bottom. We'll see if that works. So we've got some parts on order that should help us to make a little curve to make it go down. It should work. It should work just fine. We're gonna seal it all up and everything, so a bunch of, you know, spent gases don't come in here. But the water heaters, the connections for water are in the back, and then the LP connections over here, and then these wires go to 12-volt power, as well as the little remote control unit. So this is the water heater we've gone with, and so we're going to work on installing it in this bay. Probably enough, huh?
Yes.
This is our favorite glue, 5200. This will pretty much make it permanently on here.
Okay.
Just use this to hold it down while the glue dries.
Okay.
Alright, so while we're waiting for the glue to dry on the water heater bracket, we'll talk about water distribution. And so what we could do, and what's done in a lot of RVs, is they just run a main line in and then kind of branch off that line, you know, each thing tees off and gets water, tees off and gets water, tees off and gets water, until you've reached all your points inside the RV. So the issue with that is there's a ton of connections, and with a ton of connections, then there's potential for more leak. Also, if you have a problem, say in the sink, and it's teed off and goes to your shower, to fix that leak, now you've got to shut down the entire water system and fix the leak before you can use the shower or the sink or the washing machine or anything. And so kind of a different style, that's called a trunk and branch system or something, but a different style is called the home run style of plumbing. And what that is there's one dedicated line for each thing that needs water. So there'll be one for the sink, one for the shower, one for the kitchen, one for the toilet, one for the washing machine. And so they'll each have their own dedicated line, so there's no breaks or potential for leak anywhere along that system. It's just called a home run system. So it runs directly from a manifold, which is what this is, all the way to the thing that you want to have access to water. And so now, let's say a sink starts leaking or needs a faucet replaced or something like that, you just turn off that one circuit. So it's kind of like a circuit breaker. So you turn off that one water circuit, and then you can service that shower or that sink or whatever, and you still have water everywhere else. And so that's what we've opted to do, and it's a lot like a lot of the newer homes, that's how they're being done. And so this is a manifold, and each one of these has a valve and you can control the water to each of those things. It also allows you, you know, if say you have too much water pressure or too much volume or something at one of the things, you can also adjust that here by just turning the valve kind of halfway. But we'll have one of these for hot and one of these for cold. There are 6 ports here, and on the cold side we're using all 6 ports. On the hot side, the toilet doesn't need hot water, so there'll be 1 extra hot port. But anyway, this is the system we're doing, and so we're trying to fit it in here. We're trying to do some space planning. We originally wanted to do it on the other side, on the in the bay over there on the water side, but we couldn't find room for this and filters and inlets and pressure regulators and stuff like that. So we think this is going to end up being over here. So now we're looking for a place to mount these manifolds, and what we're thinking right now is to do them up on the roof where they're out of the way, and so the lines will all head over to where they're going to be, which is mostly on the other side. And so but we'd mount them up here, and we got a bracket that we bought. It kind of just looks like that, but it holds the manifolds stacked one on top of each other, and then what you do is you offset them a little bit so you can reach each of the valves. And so it allows us to mount 12 connections in a relatively small area. So anyway, that's what we're going with, and we wanted to show you our manifolds and kind of explain what our thinking was on that system. Alright, so our manifold is mounted, and we've got the heater back in here, and we're trying to figure out how to redirect this exhaust. So this exhaust needs to go outside somehow. Well, we didn't want to cut holes in our bay doors, and so what we thought about doing was we got one of these high temperature silicone couplers, and we'll go ahead and put that over that, and then have a piece of stainless steel pipe go down through the floor, and then so we've marked a little X there where it all lines up, and so we'll cut this to size, and then we'll have a little piece of pipe sticking out of the bottom that should allow for exhausting this safely out of this area. So that's what we're working on now. We'll see how it goes. Taking a little piece of steel out.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, do you see that's the part of the corrugated bottom?
Yeah, yep. Okay.
See how it cut.
Okay.
Okay, so we've cut our tube, we've deburred it. Right there. And then I think the easiest thing to do will be drop it down in like that, and then scoot this back. And just what do you think?
It's
that how far in? Well, we gotta put the clamps on.
Yep. Okay.
Alright, take 2 with clamps.
Okay, take 2 with clamps. Okay.
Is that tight?
Yep.
Like the clamps are tight?
They're pretty tight. Yep. All right, so we've secured the heater in place. This is actually glued on with 5200. It should be plenty strong. It's not budging anywhere, and it's hooked to the wall and the floor. So now we've got most of our major components in. We've got the pump, the heater, the manifold. So all that's really left on the other side is the filters, the pressure regulator, and the inlet. We haven't even bought the filters yet. We're still deciding. So we'll look into those probably this week and hopefully get them ordered and have them here by next weekend and continue working this. And we're almost ready to start plumbing the actual lines.